All right, let's talk about something we've all been through. You build a machine learning model, and it seems to work perfectly on your data. But the second you let it out into the real world, it just falls apart. Today, we're going to dive into the one crucial step that stops this from happening, so you can really, truly understand how well your model is performing.
I mean, it's the classic question, right? You've spent all this time feeding your model data. It's learning the patterns. And when you ask it to make predictions on that same data, boom, it gets a perfect score. You feel like you've totally nailed it. But here's the thing. Acing a test on questions it's already seen doesn't mean it's actually learned anything. It just means it's a good memorizer.
Think about it like this. Testing your model on its own training data? That's like letting a student write their own exam. After you've already given them the answer key, of course they're going to get an A+. But does that mean they can solve a brand new problem? Not a chance. All it proves is that they can copy and paste, not that they can actually think for themselves and, generalize.
So how do we give our model a fair shot? How do we create an exam that it hasn't already cheated on? Well, it all comes down to being really smart about how we use our data from the get-go. We have to create separate piles. One pile for studying, and a totally different unseen pile for the actual test. It's really the only way to know if your model has genuinely learned the concepts. And that brings us to what is, without a doubt, the most fundamental first step in any serious machine learning project: splitting your data. But we're not just going to slice it in half. Oh no, we're going to create three very specific, very essential buckets. Each one has a critical job to do.
So, bucket number 1, the training set. This is the big one. It's the lion's share of your data. Think of this as the model's entire library: the textbooks, the homework problems, the lecture notes. This is all the material it's allowed to look at to learn the patterns and figure out what's going on. Okay, next up is the development set, or as you'll often hear it called, the dev set. This is the model's practice exam. It's never seen this data before, so we use it to check in and see how it's doing. This is where we start tuning our model and, most importantly, where we start to diagnose what's actually going wrong under the hood.
And finally, we have the most important, most sacred bucket of them all, the test set. This is the final exam. It's been locked away in a vault the entire time. You don't look at it, you don't touch it, you don't even think about it until the very, very end. You use it just once to get that final honest-to-goodness, unbiased grade on your model. This is what tells you how it's really going to do in the wild.
Now, you might have heard some old-school rules of thumb like, oh, you should do a 60-20-20 split, and, that used to make sense. But in the age of big data, things have changed. When you're working with millions and millions of rows, just 1% for your dev and test sets can still mean tens of thousands of examples. That's more than enough to get a really confident evaluation. This lets us pour a whopping 98% of our data into training, which is exactly what we want.
Okay, so we've split our data into our three buckets. Now, the real detective work begins. By comparing how the model performs on the training set versus how it performs on the dev set, we can start to see these telltale patterns that show us exactly what's wrong. It's kind of like comparing how a student does on their open book homework versus a surprise pop quiz. That gap tells you everything.
This little table here lays it all out. Let's look at case A. The model totally aces the training data. Only a 1% error. Amazing, right? But then it gets an 11% error on the dev set. Whoa, that's a huge gap. That's a classic sign of memorization, not real learning. Now look at case B. It's doing terribly everywhere. It can't even get the training data right. Case C is just a total mess. Bad on both. But case D, that's the sweet spot. Super low error on both the training and the dev sets. That's a healthy, well-behaved model.
So these patterns actually have official names. That situation in case B, where the model just can't seem to learn the training data, we call that a high bias problem. You might also know it as underfitting. And that other situation in case A, where it does great on the training data but totally bombs on new data, that's a high variance problem, which I'm sure you've heard of. It's overfitting.
And what's so powerful about this is that the diagnosis tells you exactly what the cure is. If you've got high bias and underfitting problem, it means your model's probably too simple. So what do? You make it more powerful, train it for longer, give it a bigger network, a more sophisticated architecture. But if you have high variance and overfitting problem, your model is too complicated, it's memorizing noise. The solution there is to either give it more data to learn from or to rein it in a bit with things like regularization.
Okay, so we know how to spot bias and variance, but what if you have a little bit of both? Which one is the bigger problem? To make this super clear and easy to see, we can use a really simple tool called the Metric Analysis Diagram, or MAD. Think of it like a health chart for your model that instantly tells you what to focus on first.
So here's how you build it. Step 1, we quantify the bias. Let's say the best possible error anyone could get, like human-level performance, is 1%. If our model's training error is 6%, then that gap between them, that 5%, is what we call avoidable bias. This bar right here shows us how much our model is struggling just to learn the basics. A big bar here means you've definitely got a bias problem.
Now for step 2, we add variance to the chart. So our training error was 6%, but let's say our dev error is all the way up at 14%. That jump of 8%, that's our variance. That's the overfitting problem. And now, just by looking at the chart, you can immediately see the size of your problems side by side. In this case, our variance bar is way bigger than our bias bar. So guess what we're going to work on fixing first? Exactly.
Look, at the end of the day, this whole framework, split your data, measure the errors, diagnose the problem, and then apply the right cure, it turns model building from this mysterious, frustrating art form into a systematic engineering discipline. So on your next project, what are you going to look for first? The gap that shows bias or the gap that shows variance?
And that's our look at how to build models that don't just memorize, but actually learn. If this diagnostic approach helped clear things up for you, do me a favor and hit that like button, share it, and subscribe for more explainers just like this one. Thanks for tuning in.